What does it mean to be a king? Shortly before the year 1000 BCE, Israel begged for a king. They wanted to be like all the nations around them, and trust me, soon they were. Taxes, slavery, military draft, and more. They got exactly what they wanted. What does it mean to have power? That was the question I asked the kids today. Modern fairy tales like the show Once Upon a Time wrestle with this question all the time. Magic and power comes with a price, dearie. Anti-racism movements also wrestle with this question because in many ways power feels evil. What's it saying? Power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely, right? But you need power to be able to do anything. What does it mean to be good? This was the main question of the top musical of the 2000s, Wicked. What is good? Same question asked previously in Into the Woods. What is bad? Today, we are ending the liturgical year on the church calendar. That means next Sunday is Happy New Year for us, okay? I know we always miss that. We're like, oh no, New Year's Eve. No, next Sunday is Happy New Year's for us. This is the end of our liturgical year today. And today on the church calendar, we culminate with a celebration of Christ's reign. Christ the King Sunday. Christ is King Sunday. Daniel exclaims today, to the Son of Man be given dominion and glory and kingship, everlasting dominion and kingship that will never end. John's vision in Revelation causes him to exclaim, to Jesus be given glory and dominion forever and ever. Amen. And every Sunday we proclaim the same thing, don't we? For yours is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever and ever. Amen. But what do we mean when we say that? What does it mean for Christ to be a king, to be our king? What does it mean for Christ to have power? What does it mean for Jesus to be in charge? The easiest way to talk about Jesus' power is to simply describe the opposite. Jesus is not like the wicked witch, right? Jesus is not like the empire. Jesus is not like Thanos. Jesus is not like he who must not be named. Jesus is not a bad guy. But I keep thinking about how Jesus really isn't like any of our good guys either. Take Caesar. Now, I know we all tend to view Caesar from a Christian perspective and we think he's the bad guy, but in Rome, he was simply the president, basically. I mean, a little bit higher than that, more like a king, but Caesar was the president of the country. And we've had good presidents and bad presidents, so let's just assume that when we're talking about Caesar, we're talking about the best of what it could be. Okay, because we all have an ideal vision of what it means to be president in this country. Think of the ideal vision of what it would mean to be Caesar in Rome. And Caesar at his best is the phrase Pax Romana, the peace of Rome. And this refers to a period started a few decades before Jesus was born and continued all the way through the time that Jesus was alive, the peace of Rome. And it was a simple philosophy. Everyone has the freedom to govern themselves, all the various little nations that are part of the Roman Empire. And you'll all get along as long as you accept having military occupation during the whole thing. Okay? Everyone will get perfectly along as long as you accept our military occupation, because then if any little thing happens, we'll be able to stop it like that. And then we'll all have peace. But unlike Caesar, we never see Jesus force anyone to follow his way or to ask anyone else to force someone to follow his way. He said, if my followers had been of this kingdom, they'd be fine for me, but that's not what I ask of them. That is not what I've asked them to come and do for me. He always leaves it open for us to go whatever way we want, even if it's not towards him. Even his closest disciples. And in John's gospel, not just like on the Passion where his disciples all ran away, but even before when Jesus turned to his disciples in chapter 6 and says, do you too want to walk away? You have that freedom, you can do that. He never forced anyone to stay. But then I think, okay, so let's take an empirically good character. How about the Jedi from Star Wars? Now, those are good guys. And I know that maybe you're not all sci-fi fans, but unless you've been living under a rock, you all know the image of the Jedi because they've been around for quite a while now. These are peacekeepers, one with the Force, a good power that flows through the galaxy, protecting people from harm. They have healing powers. They have all the fruits of the Spirit. Let me tell you, they've got love, they've got joy, they've got peace, patience. They got lots of peace, actually, lots of patience. Kindness, generosity, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. They epitomize self-control. The definition of good right there. But unlike the Jedi, we never see Jesus wielding a sword. Even the one time he mentions swords, he forces his disciples to disarm and heals the man whose ear was cut off. Jesus is not a Jedi. He would never achieve goodness by force of arms. So what does it mean for Jesus to be king? When you say, "For yours is the kingdom and the glory and the power forever and ever," what does that mean? For me, I think of what one of my colleagues said about an episode earlier in John's Gospel. This was the feeding the 5,000 in chapter 6. In that story, the people try to make Jesus king once, twice, 3 times over. They're like, "Jesus, we want you to be our king." And Jesus replies, "I don't want to be king. I want to be bread. I want to be bread. I want to feed the hungry. I want to give compassion to the lost. I want to give nourishment to the weak. I want to give hope to the depressed. I want to give peace to those who are scared. I want to give life to the dead." In other words, in Jesus' mind, the way that Christ rules is not becoming a king that lords it over everyone else, but by taking care of others, by serving those who are without, by showing love, that measurement of power even the kids recognize as Christians that we value. That Jesus said, "Whoever of you wants to be great among you must be least of all and servant of all." When we think of a king today, the closest thing we have is the office of president. I mean the office, not any individual president, but the office. And we expect a lot out of this office. But even the president is something Jesus would never be. Jesus would not want to be a commander of an army. Jesus would not want to be hounded by a football with nuclear codes in it. Jesus would not want to be the one who executes the law, because Jesus was the one who fulfilled the law and broke the power of death. Jesus issued pardons by taking all the punishment to himself, right? But I think in all that imagery of what it means for Jesus to be king, what does it mean for me? What does it mean for me that Jesus is my king? What does it mean to truly believe that Christ has the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever and ever? Amen. For the first Christians, one of the things that it meant was that if Jesus is king, Caesar is not. Paul advocated for submitting to the government to the extent that they do not violate being faithful to God, but ultimately our priorities are shaped not by national identity or political affiliation, but by allegiance to Christ. Our top priorities are the priorities Christ gives us. But more than that, it's that central feature in Jesus' kingdom of mercy. But the way Jesus showed power, the way that we see Christ's power. He gave life to the dead by having mercy on them, choosing not to destroy, not to condemn, not to punish, not to fight, not to complain, not even to defend himself, but even on the cross to forgive, to embrace, to love. Jesus chose that the way to be powerful is to give oneself for one's friend and to have mercy on everyone, to forgive everyone, to look on the crowds and have compassion and act. And for me, if there's one thing that really means for me, isn't about how I'm going to live. What it really means for me is that I can always be true in front of Christ because Christ has forgiven me. I can always be true in front of Jesus. I don't have to hide from God like Adam and Eve did. I don't have to pretend to be a teenager trying to be cool instead of being bullied. I don't have to fake it like a person in pain trying to go out in public. There is never a time that I have to hide anything from God because I can trust God's mercy to always be there for me. I can trust God's love to always embrace me. I can trust that when I'm angry, I can yell at God because God's going to listen. I can trust that when I'm happy, I can tell God and God's going to smile. I can trust that when I want to dance like a complete buffoon, the type of dance that is sure to make the news as the worst dance in all of history, because I might actually do that someday, God will be right there dancing with me. And I can trust that when I've messed up, when I've royally screwed things up, I can tell God. I can tell God everything that's wrong with me, the embarrassing zit, how I can't get rid of this fat roll, the way I completely and utterly failed other people, and all those truths that I try to hide. Because Jesus already knows them and still loves me. If you want to know what it means for Jesus to be king, it's not power. It's not money. It's not weapons. To be king for Jesus is to choose to love and care for everyone. We call him the servant king. And not just those already in the kingdom, and not just those deemed valuable for the kingdom, but everyone. Period. And when we have a king who says, you are all valuable because I've deemed you valuable. You are all worthy because I've deemed you worthy, and you are all forgiven because I have chosen to forgive you. We have a king who says, and that means you have the freedom to truly be yourself, because I am never going to judge you, and I'm never going to devalue you, but I am going to embrace every part of you fully. Come, live in God's kingdom, the kingdom that changes the whole world and tells us we are all God's children. Amen.